Now, right here is going to be a healthy discussion on the kind of points per game some top level scorers are having and the impact on the team. As Amar'e Stoudemire did make comments about Melo coming to the Knicks and kind of being a ball stopper, but he didn't really say anything controversial. It was pretty much well known. It's amazing how nowadays you tell the truth and it's considered controversial. But first, let's listen to Stat's original statement.
With Coach D'Antoni, I had him down in Houston, so I know the vibes with D'Antoni. And then later on in February, Carmelo Anthony joined that group. Why do you feel? What's your thoughts in hindsight? Why that team didn't quite get over the hump? Because you guys had a hell of a lot of talent and were highly touted. Why do you think that particular group didn't get over the hump?
Well, when I first got to New York, I wanted to go to a place. First of all, I was raised in New York, right? I moved to New York in the 3rd grade. I was there until high school, basically. So I was familiar with New York, but then also D'Antoni was there. And so I felt like it was a great reunite situation to go to New York. And I knew D'Antoni would let me play my game, right? A lot of people at that time thought I was only a pick and roll guy and I only could do these things. And I'm like, that's far from the truth. So when I got to New York, I knew D'Antoni would allow me to play my full game. And that's what I was able to accomplish that first half of that season. And I was playing team basketball. I was getting everybody involved with Wilson Chandler, Raymond Felton, Gallinari.
Yeah.
All these guys were playing, having career years. And then once we brought in another superstar like Carmelo, he requires a lot of attention. So when Melo comes to our team, the ball is not moving as much because Melo requires a lot of attention. He's one of the offensive greats. So when he gets to basketball, he's looking to score. And so a lot of the cohesiveness somewhat faded away during that time. And then I also started suffering some injuries year 2, year 3, battling back and forth. And that's kind of how things panned out throughout that time in New York. We tried our best, we gave it all we got, but we just couldn't get over the hump.
So Stat right there just stating facts. Didn't say anything crazy. And now fast forward to today's Knicks. We're seeing them implement a new style of offense under Mike Brown, where Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns, they could still get their points, but it's going to be a lot different. And so far into the season, we're seeing the Knicks get up a lot more three-point shots, but it's not necessarily coming from Karl-Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson. It's coming from the rest of the players. As the NBA enters into a new era, some people might say it's a parity era, whatever they want to call it. It's more of a team game. The NBA isn't really doing anything new under the sun. It's kind of rotating right back to the era it was in the 80s, where offensive efficiency was through the roof and teams were moving the ball around nonstop. Players like Melo, in a way, or any player in the NBA, they can only be a product of their era. And for Carmelo Anthony, he was coming into the league off an era where the Michael Jordan influence was so strong that the play style was really centered around a scoring wing who normally took volume shots and pretty much carried the load, as the final scores in some of these games were like 75 to 78. And as Melo continued on into his career, entering the mid 2010s, the NBA evolved and his same 25 plus points per game did not have the same meaning. And this is where we're going to have a very nuanced, healthy discussion, as Richard Jefferson, even though he's a Knicks hater, he brought up some great points into historical star player averages, points per game from era to era. And what does it really mean? How did it affect winning? Having high scoring averages for Melo meant something different in 2004 versus 2014. The overall impact based on how you got that 25 plus points per game really started to show. But again, if you're a Knicks fan, we normally don't fuck with Richard Jefferson, but he brought up some great points right here to kind of wheel in this conversation and get away from the whole, oh, Melo killed the ball movement, because it's not about that. You guys check it out, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
I think it's an observation, not a criticism. I think it's true, right? Like that is like Carmelo was a playoff player in Denver. He's been to the playoffs. It's not like his scoring translates to wins. Now, the level of wins and how far they can go is one thing, but you do have to change the style of flow, right? Like same with Luka, same with certain guys that are so good, and Carmelo's one of them. You have to change the flow. Now, in D'Antoni's system at the time, and the Knicks were cooking, they were like, can't we get something to add to the flow versus bringing in someone that is a flow changer?
Now, this exact point, the Knicks are actually going through the opposite this season. Brunson with Tom Thibodeau was cooking, but he mainly was on ball most of the time. Now with Mike Brown, they're going back to the Mike D'Antoni style. And unlike Carmelo Anthony, Jalen Brunson is going to adjust to this. This is where we're going to get a better understanding and see him more as an all-level scorer. He's been off ball before when he played alongside Luka. The real person to be on the lookout for of how he adjusts is Karl Anthony Towns. But Brunson, after a month or two, he's still going to get his numbers. And that right there was the issue with Carmelo Anthony. Outside of being on ball all the time and being that ball stopper, he could not get into the opposite flow of what Mike Brown is trying to do this season, where we see even role players are getting way more opportunity to take shots and contribute. And guys like Kolek, Deuce McBride, Landry Shamet, Yabusele, Josh Hart, they're all going to get into rhythm based off of this flow.
Right? Rightfully so. Carmelo is that dude. So it wasn't, I don't think that that's a knock. I think that's an observation, right? I've seen Carmelo in the runs, right? So LA runs, Carmelo, like they're all cracking jokes about like who was going to shoot the last shot. And everybody was kind of like, it was like after the game. And like, they was like, yeah, some people, and then like 2-3 people looked at him, like kind of side-eyeing, and he just, goddamn right, I'm gonna shoot every fucking time, right? Like his mindset, even in the LA runs, were of like, I'm that dude, it's recognized. But for Amar'e, who played with Steve Nash, who played in the 7 seconds or less Suns, that played in that motion, the ball just keeps going, that's a very, very different thing. So I don't view that as a criticism.
No, it's not criticism. I think it's a fact. I mean, it is a fact. Playing with Alvin Gentry, who is obviously playing with Amar'e and Steve Nash and those teams, we weren't 7 seconds or less, maybe 10. But like the ball popping and flowing in specific spaces, and also the emphasis a little bit earlier on like threes, free throws, and layups. So think about D'Antoni, think about James Harden. James Harden is a D'Antoni guy. They are tried and true, right? Same with.
And that's one thing I give James Harden credit for. He did switch up his game, and it allowed other players to eat.
With Daryl Morey, they are efficiency. Carmelo's like, I'm just better than you and can score 50. Fuck all this plays. I don't want to play fast. Give me the ball. Y'all go over there. When I get double teamed, then you might get the rock. But Carmelo's success is because of his skill set that allowed him to be anywhere and score anywhere on the floor. We didn't really have a lot of post plays when I was with Alvin. It was more screen and roll, and then our read is looking at everyone. So like from the top down, and then where Carmelo's like,
give me the ball,
rock, and then you stand. So your role is more of a.
It's more of an early 2000s player. That's what happened. The game evolved, and Melo stayed in the early 2000s.
You don't get as many offensive touches, but on that team, because Amar'e he's very, very good on the block, but he's way better at screening and rolling. That creates so much gravity, dropping the defense down, and now you get wide open jumpers.
That right there, Channing Frye is describing Karl Anthony Towns' role this season. He's going to have to get more into that Isaiah Hartenstein bag where he's just screening, re-screening, rolling hard, knowing when to take the three, and especially attacking defenders on those closeouts.
Melo, you like, well, I might not see this for about a quarter or two, so then I just got to be ready.
And that's something right there. Also, LeBron James, when he comes back with the Lakers, with the way Austin Reeves is cooking, LeBron is going to have to adjust his game. Because low-key, LeBron is another player. He's so gifted that he could still play in that early 2000s flow where he's on ball 24/7 and everyone kind of has to stand around and guess when they're going to get the ball. He's a different level talent, but he's not that far off from being that early 2000s player. But once again, all these guys are really products of their era.
And you guys both know this. Then because of a player's greatness and the way he plays, he is judged. Can he turn that into wins? Championships. That's it. Can Kobe go be that? That's why those 2 championships after Shaq left. Can he go be that guy and score all the points? Jordan did it. So for Carmelo, it was, I think, the one thing that he's a winner from the national championship, the Olympics. You know that. But did his style of play lead to championship and championship basketball? It didn't. Now, there was draft picks with the Knicks. Right. There was all these things, but ultimately.
But we also got to point to the fact that there were opportunities still. Why was Melo losing to a young Paul George in that 2013 playoffs? It made no sense. Melo's supposed to be on a higher tier at that point. The storyline really was Melo was going to meet LeBron in those Eastern Conference Finals. So losing to a young Paul George 4-2, when guys like Tyson Chandler have been on record stating that they were not even prepared for game 1, it leaves you to wonder, these guys are leaving a lot of crumbs on the table.
You have to prove that your style of dominance can translate to championship.
Which is hard.
Which is hard to do, right? Even LeBron doesn't play that way. Think about how many players play like Kevin Durant, but even Kevin Durant was a souped-up version, and he had better teams around him than Carmelo did.
He definitely did, but the only thing I would say about Kevin Durant is that when he went to Golden State, the shit was a perfect fit. He didn't have to get stuck in that hero ball black hole. Because if you look at it, every time he did, the results were never the same. And once he went to Golden State, it was like watching the final piece of the puzzle get put in, and it was a fucking masterpiece. Ever since then, it's not the same. Durant out in Phoenix, they didn't have a point guard. He's fallen too much in love with the isolation, and he has not kept up his body as far as being into the gym to be that type of player as he ages. And that's really what happened to Melo too. As his legs started to give away, he didn't have the same lift. He started missing wide open mid-range jumpers. That was happening in his last few years in New York. It happened a lot in OKC and especially in Houston.
Right? So it's hard to compare those scores and that style of give me the ball, I'm going to lead us.
Let me ask you a further question. SGA.
Very different.
No.
Is it?
No, it's not. No.
Is it?
Very
No,
different.
no, I'm with you.
Is it?
He's like MJ.
Yes, it is.
But
But he plays, so playing from the post, right? Playing from the post is a lot different than playing from the top of the key, because when teams help at the boxes and elbows, he's making those shots to Chet, but he's also, number one, getting to the free throw line. He's playing faster.
He's scoring that thing.
They both
He's
score.
He's scoring that thing,
but
and
he's getting
averaging-
to the free throw line.
it
So is
doesn't
Melo.
matter.
Wait.
And I'm also going to say this. He's won. So obviously,
And most importantly, SGA's playmaking. He got way better at that. Even though sometimes his teammates are missing wide open threes like Lou Dort, he's still dishing it out to them anyway. And unlike previous stars, a lot of the guys of this era, they can play defense. Make no mistake about it, SGA, with his back against the wall, in Game 4 of the NBA Finals, about to go down 3-1 against the Pacers, nothing was going for him offensively in that third quarter, and he turned up his defense. That's the fucking difference. A lot of the guys in this era are 6'8", 6'7", and they're not afraid to get dirty on the defensive end.
his shit works. It's
but,
different.
But the point is, you have to prove that your style of play can win,
Yeah.
and it's also determined by the players that you have around them. I would say that guys like Shea, Kevin Durant, they have had better teams historically
Okay, I'll give you that.
than Carmelo has, right? But that still falls on, as we've been in locker rooms with Bron and Dirk, the best players know this is all on me. Win and lose, everyone's going to look on me.
Facts, at some point it's going to have to fall on the star. And Melo had a better team than the Indiana Pacers going into that series against Paul George. The Knicks were the better team. They were even the favorites.
So it's my job to prove that my style of play can win, right? And that's the part. Shea, Carmelo, exact same. They might have Kobe, Carmelo, exact same mindset style of player.
Okay.
They have to prove that their 30 a night, their 29 a night leads to wins. Shea did it. Shea was leading the league in scoring, like all the things. Like that's hard to do as a guard. Multiple years at that efficiency level, right? Don't tell me about free throws. Carmelo was getting free throws. Everybody was. Kobe getting free throws. Shea proved that his 30 a game is a championship 30.
And it was mostly mid-range too. We got to factor that in. It's mostly mid-range. It's very ironic they keep saying it's a three-point error, but then we watch Jokic and SGA win championships off the mid-range. And even Jimmy Butler got to 2 NBA finals during this so-called three-point era.
There's been what, 4 guys in the last 30 years that have done that? I can average 30 in the season and go win a championship, win an MVP. That shit is different, bro, NBA history. Like how many people have averaged 30 and won a championship?
That's a good fucking question. Average 30 and won a championship. It's going to be like off the top, Kareem, Jordan, SGA. Sheesh. That list is fucking small. But one thing I got to say, Jalen Brunson, his level of scoring is equating to wins, even when Tibbs had him on ball. That is one thing that's very noticeable versus, I would say, the Melo era of the Knicks. Brunson getting into his spots and cooking is really leading the Knicks to get consistently into the second round of the playoffs. Brunson already has victories over Joel Embiid with the injury-riddled Knicks. He's beaten the Cavs, he's beaten the Celtics, and this is only a few years off from the Knicks having that team that went up against Miami, in which they had virtually no shooters.
MJ, was he the last one? I don't know if Bron hit 30. I don't know if Kobe was averaging 30 during those 2 seasons that they won after Shaq. He might have been 28.
I think all 3 of those were
Kobe
like
was 30.
3 was.
Well, I know. I'm saying I know he hit 30, but did he average 30 the season that they won those 2
I would
championships?
say yes.
I would say no.
I think it was 20.
I would say no.
28.
30's a heavy number.
I think 3 of those were Jordan.
That's what I'm saying. 30 in a championship, bro.
No.
That's different world.
27.
That's what I'm saying.
26.8 and 27.
That's why I said Michael Jordan, Rick Barry, Kareem. Shay's in that fucking class. Now, Michael Jordan did it a bunch of times. He did it a bunch of times. That's why we look at him like the GOAT.
Right.
Now, we've seen Kobe and Jordan and plenty of other legends make comments about guys averaging too many points per game. Charles Barkley said Luka at a time when he was playing for the Mavericks, he was averaging like almost 36. And he said, hey, if he wants to win a championship, that shit has to drop and get his teammates involved. Same thing for Kobe. When James Harden was having his MVP seasons, there was a point where even Kobe said, hey, that's great for the regular season, but if he wants to win a championship, his points per game has to drop. You can't average 36 points per game and expect to get to the finals. It's just not happening. That's because when you get to that championship level, the NBA is a team game. Of course, you do need a superstar, but it's more of a team game. Once you start getting into that second round, all the way up into the finals, it's always going to be a team game. And that's where Tibbs started hitting the wall, especially against the Pacers, because they had so many guys coming off the bench and contributing that it was virtually impossible for all their starters to keep up with a Pacers bench that's dropping 35 points a game. Once again, in Game 5, the Pacers had 52 points off the bench, and the Knicks ended up winning. So that's a lot of energy and effort by the Knicks starters just to maintain. Not even to thrive, just to fucking maintain.
Let Shea average 30 and win 4 more championships, the conversation is going to be very different. But that's what I'm saying. That's where I say Carmelo's a 30-point-a-game scorer. Kevin Durant, a 30-point-a-game scorer. Those guys are judged. James Harden, 30-point-a-game scorer. Those guys are judged differently, right? Like, that's why Bron only hit 30 a few times.
So what's the difference then?
Jefferson, once again, he's cooking right here. Bron actually had lesser averages when he went to the Miami Heat, and those were his most successful years in the league. Once again, this season, we're going to see Jalen Brunson still get his numbers because I believe his game is well suited to adjust where the total offense can still flow. The main catalyst is going to be Karl Anthony Towns. Can he make that adjustment?
Bron only hit 30 a few times.
So what's the difference then?
What do you mean?
What's the difference between Shea and Melo other than their team? What do you think, like?
I know, I just
or
think...
you just think it's the team?
One of them's a two-way player, first of all. So when he's not scoring, he definitely makes it up. And Shea's not a ball stopper. He not only make quick decisions, he also doesn't have his head down when he's driving to the hoop. He's usually looking to play make off the gravity of defenders that he pulls in.
This is what I would say. I would say that Shea proves that his 30 a game is in a class of very few people. Carmelo is the same scoring legit, and don't get me wrong, Shea's even more efficient. But I don't think Carmelo had the teams around him. But in basketball hierarchy, what did you do with what you have? We criticized LeBron for going and losing to the finals and getting swept by the Spurs when he was in fucking year 23. We can't absolve Carmelo of the 30 points a game he scored, top 10 all time in scoring, and say, hey, what did you do with that 30 for your teams? And I'll give him some, like, his teams weren't great, but there were opportunities for him to go other places. He did have, like, again, in Denver teams, yeah, they were balling.
That was my worst.
Yeah. So then you start looking at, okay, defensively, what was Carmelo defensively? Then you start looking at players in other spaces. So I just say the 30-point a game and win an MVP, you put yourself in the class of the Kobe's, of those, like there's very few people that have ever done it. We can't put Shea in the same category from like the winning standpoint as a team, but from a scorer, you got to prove.
Hey, RJ is finally cooking. Normally he's a Knicks hater, but he's cooking right here. But it is what it is. This season, we're going to get a nice taste of this exact scenario here, as Jalen Brunson, his game is well suited for the whole team to still flow. He's going to get more comfortable in his catch and shoot role as he went through that in his time in Dallas with Luka. And don't be surprised if OG Anunoby or Mikal Bridges make the All-Star team. One of those guys are going to come up off this offensive system. But this brand new Mike Brown offense is going to take some time, and we got to be patient. By early to mid-January, I expect this team to be clicking on a whole new level. And we all got to wonder, out of that bench rotation, who else is going to come up? Deuce has definitely been on the loose. Will Jordan Clarkson thrive, or maybe Tyler Kohler could come up? There's going to be plenty of opportunities, but that flow that RJ had made reference to is exactly what Mike D'Antoni had the Knicks on in that 2009 season, and now we're watching the team get back into those modern times. This is definitely the first season in a long time that the Knicks offense has been this modern. It's going to be fun though. Put on your seatbelts and enjoy the ride.